Hello, welcome to the Fusion Artist Studio. My name is Ed Breen, I'm your host, and each week we sit down with an artist from Marion or Grant County, a person who in one way or another is involved with the arts, either the visual arts, the performing arts, or simply a supporter of the arts. Talk about what it is that they're doing, what they see being done in the community, and what their view is for what the community ought to be doing in the future. Today our guest is Ronald Morrell. Well, Ronnie, welcome.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
The first thing we need to talk about with you before we get into anything else is the electric scooter business. You have put them all over Marion. People are using them. How many broken legs so far?
None. Okay. I think we got a few scraped elbows and stuff like that, but broken legs, none.
Well, let's talk about that. Yeah, I mean, you're from Marion. You're
Correct.
A Marion native. You saw something there that could be done.
Yep.
You got into it. You put some bucks in there. Those things aren't cheap.
They're not.
And you've situated them, here on the campus at IWU, downtown at 4th and Washington. Where else?
Yeah, so those are the main two locations in Marion. I'm also in Gas City on Main Street, right in front of the Sunoco gas station, and also in Wabash in front of the museum. So those are the three locations that they mainly operate in.
And is it fair to say you do not advise a person to get on one of those for the first time unattended?
Some people are successful in that. Others aren't. I've had one person say they were riding, they ran into one of the buildings downtown.
Okay.
But it's one of those things that you'll get used to after a while. And I also try to post as much tutorial information online as possible so people can ride. And I'm looking forward to you getting on there soon.
We haven't talked about balance, have we? Old guys lose their balance.
And so what's cool is here in the either next summer or the summer following, I'm going to bring some that have 3 wheels. So 1 in the front and 2 on the back. So that takes
better.
that out. So,
better.
So now you'll be able to ride. Yeah.
All right, now I'm interested.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to business here and talk about, well, first of all, talk about who you are and why you're in Marion, and a little bit about what brought you to the point where you are right now.
Sure. I am a Marion native. Been here all my life. I went to Indiana Wesleyan, so I couldn't get out of here no matter what I did. Grew up in Marion, went to Indiana Wesleyan, and got my undergrad in percussion performance. And so everybody in my family does a little bit of entrepreneurial stuff. So I always knew that I was going to be in some kind of a business. And so I landed on the scooter thing, but I also am a jazz musician. So that's one of the main things two things I spend my time on.
We'll revisit that road in a minute.
Okay. So I spend most of my time on my entrepreneur ventures in music. I also teach drums and piano lessons. So that's that's basically who I am now. I have a
family
daughter.
tradition. Yep. Your grandfather is Bob Morrell, who
Correct.
has been in the flooring and carpet business for about 200 years
Getting
now.
close, yeah. It's getting close.
Your aunt is Candy Morrell,
Yep.
who is active in some religious organizations in
Yep.
town. Let's talk about the jazz music thing.
Yeah.
How did you get into that?
So at Indiana Wesleyan, I was getting my undergrad in percussion, and we have a professor here, Todd Williams, who's a big-time jazz musician, played with the likes of Wynton Marsalis and plays all over the country.
Really?
Yeah, he's a big-time guy. You should check him out, Todd Williams. And my first year at Indiana Wesleyan, he was his first year working here. And then so he handed me actually sent me a link of John Coltrane's Giant Steps. He said, check this out. And at this time, I always played drums, but I never was into jazz. And after I heard that record, I fell in love with the music. And then I, from then on, did a deep dive into jazz. And then I released now 2 albums, and I play all over the Midwest. So it's all thanks to him of why.
And your instrument of choice is?
Drums. Yep, God's instrument.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other instruments, or is that it?
So in my band, I usually travel with a saxophone and a bass player and an organist.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what sound do you have, if you want to categorize it?
I am.
Who do you admire?
Wow, that's tough. I got a few people. If we'll go into legendary jazz musicians, will be Max Roach. I really look up to him in that era, in the really jazz as a like a freedom type situation where you're playing the music not just for music's sake, but to mean something, as in like kind of almost like a protest. So Max Roach is a big deal, and also a newer guy by the name of Jameson Ross, who I really look up to as well. Both of those guys are actually drummers.
Marion is not known as a hotbed of jazz music.
Correct.
Is that fair to say?
That is very much true.
But Bobby Pittman and some other folks are trying to provide venues for jazz in Marion. Talk about that. Talk about where the venues are where you can be heard.
Right. So what Bobby's done with the Kingdom is legendary, to be able to bring something like that and have a live music venue. Because before he opened up, I was playing at like restaurants. There's been a few supportive restaurants like Payne's, which is in Gas City. I played there a lot coming up, and a few other places. I was anywhere the arts, the Concerts in the Garden series. I would play there every year at the Matter Park. So it was just always trying to find places that can just let you hear the music, or let people hear the music, because it's really a culture that is currently foreign to this city. And even with the same thing as the Scooters, I've seen that idea in a bigger city, and I'm like, wow, that would be really cool to bring that culture to Marion, Indiana. So that's one of my things. I like to travel and check out other cities, what they have going on, and try to bring that here. Instead of leave Marion, once I see something that I like, I want to try to bring that back here and let the people of a smaller city.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. And let
Why
people
take
here
what you have and leave when you can bring it back here?
Yep. So I have a vision for this city, and to make this city what I see in other places instead of leaving.
Okay. And how's it being received?
Everything has pushback, but with pushback, there's also some people that really accept it, and it's going good. It's going slow, but it's going good. People come out and people want to hear the music. People are actually purchasing albums on the digital platform, not physical. People really don't buy those anymore, but they're purchasing on the digital platforms and listening, and really interested in the music, and more so the culture of the music and what it means.
Talk about Marion as a place that has potential for growth. And in the musical sense. What can happen in this town, say, in the next 10 or 20 years?
So I'm hoping that Marion can be a place where artists can come and just be able to express whatever their art is. So if you really focus on music, I would say that with what Bobby's doing, we can also have other places like that. Because if you really think about it, I think Bill Reese has opened the Cinder Cafe, which is like right next to where Bobby is, and those are two places that can host venues for music. And so I think that Marion can eventually evolve into a hub of where people land to have live concerts. I mean, maybe we'll never be like a Clip Center in Noblesville, but we can be catered to the smaller artists and the smaller art as a more of a passing through to get to Fort Wayne or Indianapolis.
Little broader question. What's happening in the world of jazz music that keeps it alive and vibrant today?
Sure. So jazz is, I like to tell everybody, it's a living organism. So when people think of jazz, they kind of cut it off at, 1950 or 60. But what jazz is American.
Bebop was the end of the
Yeah,
world.
that's how people think of it. But really, jazz is America's only true art form. So this was something that was made in America by Americans. And what happened is it keeps evolving into more things. So you listen to country music, you can hear jazz in that. You listen to rock and roll, you hear jazz, blues, jazz, gospel music, jazz, hip hop, even jazz. So all these kind of things are borrowing from the original American art form. So even though jazz in its traditional form has kind of went underground, this evolution just continues to really flourish in the market everywhere.
The jazz that you're playing today, if Charlie Parker came back today, would he recognize what he hears?
Oh yes, I think. Well, first of all, he's a genius. So anything you put him in front of, he'll be able to get to it. But there are some traditionalists that still play hard bop and like that bebop era of Charlie Parker. But the music has evolved a little, and to where now what you're getting is a lot of fusion, like even like the Fusion Arts Alliance. You're getting a lot of fusion stuff happening. So you're getting Charlie Parker bebop mixed in with Lil Wayne's hip hop.
Okay.
So now it's creating this whole new avenue, and it's bringing more and more artists and more younger ears into what the tradition of this music is.
Okay. Fusion Arts Alliance, you joined the organization. Why did you join?
I think pushing the arts is a huge thing. So to any organization that's doing that in a city like Marion is needs to be commended and pushed forward, because I mean usually in smaller cities the term starving artist is amplified.
So,
yeah. So
the poster child.
Yeah. So
okay.
I think that this organization that's pushing art and pushing artists forward is a great for the community.
Let's talk about the role of the Arts Alliance. What can it do for you as a performing artist? And then secondly, what can the artists do to support the Alliance?
I think that with the giving us a voice, like with interviews like this and putting it out and keep having events is a huge, or giving us platforms, to be able to speak and do whatever our art is how that the Fusion Arts Alliance can continue helping artists. And as far as artists, I think that the artist's responsibility is to we got the help that we want. Now we got to actually, support it and share it. Social media is powerful right now, so share it on social media. Share platforms, push it out there, let people know that this exists.
Even broader question, what should the community, the larger community, put Bobby Pittman and Bill Reese aside for a second.
Yeah.
They understand. You've got a larger community. What should it be doing to make itself more receptive to the arts community?
Yeah, so Marion has a tradition of saying, there's nothing to do in Marion. So
we've worked hard at saying that for years.
We've worked hard at saying that for years. So now when
Yeah.
something comes available, that mentality is so ingrained into us that we just don't even show up to the events. So what I think is just kind of a mentality switch is to be able to understand that there are things going on. There are things to do, there are things happening, and come out and support. And that's what I would say to the community at large. Is people are out here working to try to make Marion a place where there are things to do. And so now it's our turn to step up and just show up to those events.
What do you want to do next?
Oh man, I have a lot of different ventures and things spinning in my head. As far as art, I want the jazz culture to be portrayed in Marion. So in jazz, what people like to call it is controlled chaos, but I like to call it as managed conversation. So every musician is talking, but if you're talking over top of another musician with your instrument, the music is not executed correctly. So everybody in jazz is going to be talking at the same time, but you have to be listening to what the other person is saying to be able to make the music work effectively.
Is there a community in Marion that speaks the jazz language to one another?
We're working on it. We're getting better in listening. So one of the most important things in jazz is you have to listen. If everybody's playing at the same time, or if everybody's soloing at the same time, the band's going to crash. So
Yeah.
we have to be able to listen, but also be able to talk at the same time.
And how do you enlarge that group?
What I like to do is get people out to the music. So most people, when they hear jazz, they think of like elevator music or background dinner music, but when you actually dive into what that culture is, it's just an understanding. And then we'll see like, wow, that can actually be applied to my real life. I can actually be working in community with somebody, still doing what I'm doing, but also be listening to further rise the tide.
Okay, you get involved in jazz here at the IWU environment.
Yes.
Sort of an academic approach. You were
Right.
learning theoretically. You were no longer a teeny bopper yourself.
Not
When
anymore.
when you are talking to young people who are interested in music, hip hop, rap, whatever it happens to be, how do you introduce them to classic jazz and say, hey, make this your own?
You gotta get out and, for lack of a better term, speak the language. So what I did, as soon as I hit 21, I went to Indianapolis and down to the place called the Chatterbox, which is on Mass Avenue. And
Should be on Indiana Avenue, but that's all gone.
yeah, and so I went down there, man, and got cut. When I thought I was good, and went down there and sat in with the top musicians, and like, oh wow, Now I need to go home and practice, and I went to the Jazz Kitchen for their jam nights for the same thing. And it's getting around people who speak that language and who are interested in that, and it helps move it forward. So that's what I would advise every young person to do, is whatever music scene you're interested in, getting around those people that are doing that.
And given you've got a day job, you've got several day jobs, you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
How do you carve out the time to do what you really want to be doing?
Yeah, so now I'm at the point in life where everything I'm doing, I want to be doing. It was a long time to where I was, you know how every artist is. You have to do this kind of, day job you really don't want to do. But now, thankfully, I've made it to the point where I'm only doing what I want to. So, but for artists, what I would say for musicians coming up is, especially in this 2020 time, you have to have multiple things going on at the same time. And I mean, even if you look at your more top artists, nobody's just doing music anymore, because it's hard to just survive off of just one thing going on. So like, for example, I play live. That's kind of limited right now, obviously, but play live, teach lessons, release albums, do YouTube series and videos, everything. Try to get stuff coming in from every kind of way. Otherwise, you'll always be in like that starving artist category. So
you have a trio or a quartet?
Yes, it's just the Ronald Morrell Jr. Trio. Yeah.
Okay.
And I kind of alternate the musicians, but my main guys are Kendall Carter out of Louisville, Kentucky, and I alternate my saxophone players with Peter Luttrell. He's living in Fishers now, and Jonathan Doherty, who's in Cincinnati.
Okay.
Yeah.
Need to get some other local guys in there. Huh?
Yeah, I'm always looking for a saxophone player for local, and an organ player. Anybody wants to do that, I'll gladly bring them on.
Okay.
Yep.
If you could deliver a message to the community to encourage the community to support the kinds of things that you're doing, the kinds of things that visual artists are doing, what message would you send them?
Well, I would say, we have to have pride in Marion. And I think that the arts, in every city that I feel like is flourishing, the art scene is flourishing. So as the arts go, the cities go. So as we start taking care of visual artists, as I think, I can't remember the name of the street, but it's right behind Ace Hardware. They're doing like the murals on the side of the building. And Tashima Davis has been painting amazing things around the city. So the visual arts is kind of bringing up the culture of the city, and Bobby's doing the stuff with the live music. And so it's just like, this stuff is happening now. Like, let's have pride, let's take care of those things. Let's manage them, and let's show that Marion can be the city that everybody knows it wants to be.
Ronnie Morrell, we wish you well, and we thank you for your time.
All right, thank you so much.
Take care. And we thank Indiana Wesleyan University for making the studio available to us. We will find other artists, other topics. Stay with us. This is fun to listen to. Thank you.